Today's discussion is going to be about interest deductions that you and I get as individuals. As a general rule, the Internal Revenue Service does not allow you as an individual to deduct interest that you pay on your tax return. For example, you're not allowed to deduct interest on a car loan. You're not allowed to deduct interest on a credit card or a personal loan. The Congress and the Internal Revenue Code, however, has given us several instances of where we are allowed to deduct interest. Let me review them with you very quickly and in a good summary fashion. We'll start with the easiest one of all. You borrow money to attend college. That student loan interest is a deduction that is allowed. There are various limits that are available. Everyone may deduct student loan interest that they are paying within certain income and filing requirement rules. Okay. The second major category of deduction, of course, is the deduction we get for borrowing money to buy, build, or improve a home or a second home. Now, when I pay interest to a bank on my home, all interest that I pay to a bank on my home is broken into one of two categories. The prime category is called acquisition debt. This is money I borrow to buy, build, or improve my home. IRS allows me to deduct interest on that acquisition debt, the money I borrow to buy my home or build or improve my home. I am allowed to deduct that interest all the way up to $1 million of borrowed money. Now, I want to make it clear that's not a deduction of $1 million. That's the interest on $1 million of money you borrow to buy, build, or improve your home. That $1 million may be divided between two homes if you own a main home and a second home. So you don't get $1 million for each home. You get to deduct interest on up to a total of $1 million of money borrowed to buy two homes, build two homes, or improve two homes, divided any way you wish. Many people in America ask about alternative minimum tax, surtaxes, etc. The money that you borrow as acquisition debt to buy, build, or improve your home is fully deductible for regular tax purposes and alternative minimum tax purposes. Once you exceed the $1 million, it's not deductible at all. A common source of additional interest that we pay on our home is a second mortgage, a refinancing, or something like that. Let's say that I have a line of equity on my home, or I refinance my home and I take some money out. When I have a line of equity or a credit line on my home, and I use that money to do anything other than buy, build, or improve that home. For example, I own my own home. Let's say I borrow against it to buy a car. The money I borrowed to buy the car is not acquisition debt. It does not follow under that rule that I gave you a minute ago. It falls under the second rule called the equity debt rule. Okay, so when I borrow against my home and I use that money for any purpose other than to buy, build, or improve that home, then that interest is called equity debt. Equity debt, I am allowed by Congress to deduct interest on up to $100,000 of equity borrowings against my regular income tax. I don't know if you caught that. What that means is if you borrow on your home equity line and you don't use that money to buy, build, or improve your home, you use it to buy a car or go on vacation or consolidate credit cards, that's equity debt. The interest on that is only deductible for regular tax purposes. It is not deductible for alternative minimum tax purposes, an ugly trap for an awful lot of Americans. All right, so our summary of interest is we have student loan interest, which is usually deductible by whoever pays it. We have home acquisition debt interest, money borrowed to buy, build, or improve my home, and I'm allowed to deduct interest on up to $1 million. We have home equity debt interest, which is a credit line, a refinancing where I take money out, a personal equity line, something like that, that is guaranteed by my home. That interest is deductible on up to $100,000 of borrowings, but only for regular tax purposes, not for alternative minimum tax purposes. That's why as your tax preparer, when you borrow money against your home, I've got to ask, when did you borrow it? What did you use the money for, so that I can track the interest and the deductions on your return. There are, of course, many other types of deductions available on your return, but these are the prime deductions for interest expense that you and I as individuals pay. So remind ourselves, no deduction for cars, or credit cards or personal interest. Special rules allow us to deduct interest on student loans, the purchase of my home, and in many cases, borrowing against my home for up to $100,000 of equity debt. I hope that's answered many of your questions. For further information, of course, feel free. Call our office at any time. We'll be happy to try to answer your questions. And until next time, thank you so much for watching.